President Donald Trump is once again publicly expressing his dissatisfaction with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The president says he wishes he had never picked Sessions to lead the Justice Department. This latest outburst comes over a New York Times report into Sessions' recusal from the Russia investigation. The paper reports in March of last year, the president berated Sessions over his recusal and asked him to reverse his decision. That exchange is now being investigated by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. On CBS This Morning, House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy was asked whether the president's request amounted to obstruction of justice.
I don't think so. I think what the president is doing is expressing frustration that Attorney General Sessions should have shared these reasons for recusal before he took the job, not afterward. If I were the president and I picked someone to be the country's chief law enforcement officer, and they told me later, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be able to participate in the most important case in the office, I would be frustrated too. That's how I read that, is Senator Sessions, why didn't you tell me this before I picked you? There are lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked someone else.
Yeah. Well, President Trump was listening to that. He responded on Twitter by quoting Gowdy's comments about the president's frustration. When Gowdy's quote ended with, quote, he could have picked someone else, Trump added, and I wish I did. Zeke Miller is a CBSN political contributor and a White House reporter for the Associated Press. He joins us now. Zeke, the president has attacked Sessions publicly on multiple occasions. So how would you describe their working relationship at this time? Is there any sense that Sessions has had enough?
There's really no sign of that right now. Sessions, people close to him say he's very happy in the job. This is a job he's wanted pretty much his entire professional and adult life. He left a very safe seat in the Senate to go take it. He's happy with his work. He believes he's being effective in that role. And folks in the White House, even the president, believes that Sessions is effective in the role as Attorney General, separate from the Russia investigation. The problem for Sessions in the president's eye is that, if the president, Jeff Sessions' recusal was sort of the original sin that led to the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation, that is now bedeviling him at seemingly every turn. So they have a working professional relationship. It's really that personal relationship that has suffered, and there really is not a lot of chemistry there since that decision last year.
So they aren't chummy anymore, but we mentioned the New York Times reports that Mueller is looking into the president's attacks on Sessions. What does this new development say about where this probe could be going?
Certainly, there's been a lot of investigation from the part of the special counsel looking at issues of a potential obstruction of justice by the president, whether his decision to fire FBI Director James Comey, his contemplation of firing the Attorney General Jeff Sessions a couple of times last year. That's all. We've all known that to be part of that web. We have not seen any specific steps on the part of the special counsel to sort of either bring any charges or lay the groundwork for that. We know that some of those questions about that time period, the president's decisions and thinking during that time period, are what he wants to interview the president about. We have not seen any sort of, we've seen no new liability for the president opening up here, but certainly a lot more interest on the part of the special counsel to try to figure out exactly what the president thought he was doing when he said about those actions in the spring and early summer of last year, when the pivotal period when the Russia investigation was escalating, and he was growing unhappy with his attorney general. He fired his FBI director, and so that's certainly an area we know the special counsel is very interested in, and certainly they want to ask the president about that. He's also asked a whole bunch of people around the president, his friends, his White House allies, his campaign confidants, about questions about that period as well.
Now, Zeke, while the president did quote Gowdy on Sessions, they're not on the same page about the alleged FBI informant in contact with the Trump campaign. Gowdy was one of the lawmakers briefed on this, and I want to play first what Mr. Trump said last night and then Gowdy's assessment. Listen.
So how do you like the fact they had people infiltrating our campaign? Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Well, when the FBI comes into contact with information about what a foreign government may be doing in our election cycle, I think they have an obligation to run it out. I think the FBI, if they were at the table this morning, they would tell you Russia was the target and Russia's intentions toward our country were the target. The fact that two people who were loosely connected with the Trump campaign may have been involved doesn't diminish the fact that Russia was the target and not the campaign.
So there's Congressman Gowdy essentially defending the FBI's investigation there. Did he just take the wind out of Trump's accusations of spying?
There's certainly an element there of that where, for the president, this has never been about what did or didn't the FBI do in the Russia investigation. This is about winning a battle in the public relations space. This has been about mounting a political defense to potential legal issues down the line. The president's embrace of "quote unquote" Spygate, to use his term there, was not about what did the FBI do. It was about convincing certainly his base and maybe other Americans that he was the victim of politicized investigatory practices on the part of the Justice Department that at the time was run by a political opponent of his, President Barack Obama and his administration. So the facts of the matter, really never supported the president's accusations against the Bureau here, and certainly here one of the president's staunchest allies in Congress saying there really was no there. But that's not going to deter the president. We heard him use it again, go off about this at a rally last night in Nashville. We can probably expect to hear him talk about it going further on the campaign cycle, because it's a very potent political tool for him. And in the case of special counsel investigations, it's really not so much about the legal substance as it is a political matter. Because in the case of the president, the ultimate, the worst this can ever get for him is essentially impeachment, and that's a political process as much as it's a legal one.
Absolutely. All right. Now, separately, the president also continued his calls for a border wall at his rally. Let's play that.
In the end, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. I'm just telling you. They do nothing to help us. Nothing. They're going to pay for the wall, and they're going to enjoy it, okay? They're going to enjoy it.
The president of Mexico immediately fired back on Twitter. President Donald Trump, no. Mexico will never pay for a wall. Not now, not ever. The president has even had pushback from a Republican Congress over this. So why is he going back to this idea that Mexico is going to pay for the wall? It doesn't seem to be politically expedient for him.
Yeah, this is, we've seen in the president's budget a request to Republicans on Capitol Hill to fund the construction of this wall. And he's called that a down payment or some sort of, fronting the money from Mexico down the line when he's asked about it in a political context. But this is, again, another example of where this is not a political, this is not a legislative question on the part of the president, an issue of foreign relations. This is a political concern. This is a line that he deployed over and over again throughout the 2016 presidential campaign. And for him, it's that's why he keeps going back to this. It activates his supporters, and even if he never delivers on it, it certainly does get them fired up. The challenge for him here is, and Mexico's not been shy about this for the better course of 2.5 years. They're not going to pay for the wall, they said, and this comes at a critical moment for renegotiations of NAFTA. There are real consequences to the president going back on that taking that political tone once again. So it will be interesting to see over the coming weeks, is the president sacrificing some of his policy priorities when it comes to renegotiating trade deals as he tries to sort of activate his political base here at home.
Yeah, it's almost like we're hearing a rewind of some of his campaign greatest hits, and it doesn't really matter whether they are being acted out or not. It's just, it sounds good on the campaign trail.
That's exactly right. This is the president trying to be sort of, peak Trump, so to speak. He wants to get his supporters activated because he doesn't want them to stay at home in November when Republicans face some serious headwinds at the polls.
All right, so last but not least, two reality stars aligned today. Kim Kardashian will be at the White House this afternoon. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm not a longtime reader of People magazine, and that today is now a professional liability. But Kim Kardashian is supposed to be here later today to meet with senior advisor Jared Kushner about some one of the things he's been focusing on is sentencing reform, criminal justice reform more broadly. That's an issue that Kim Kardashian has embraced recently, and certainly when she's here, it's almost given that she will in some way or shape or form interact with the president. At that point, I assume the internet's going to explode, and then beyond that, it's hard to really predict where this might go.
Right. Will it break the internet or not? All right, Zeke Miller, we'll give you some time to brush up on your People magazine. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks so much. Thank you.